Am I the asshole for refusing to remove my prosthetic for my boyfriend? I, 19 female, have a below-the-knee prosthetic as I lost my lower left leg as a child in a car accident. I move well in it and it in no way hinders my day-to-day life. I've been seeing a guy, 24 male, for 5 months now and things are going great for the most part. The one issue I'd say is that he is insistent on me removing my prosthetic around him. We could be hanging out and he'd suggest I'd be more comfortable with it off, or heading to bed to have sex he'd suggest that it may be better to remove it. His suggestions have become requests as I kept ignoring the suggestions and I finally told him I wasn't comfortable with removing my leg around him yet as I didn't feel we were there. My leg, despite the fact I can move well in it, is a source of trauma for me due to bullying and having had past partners be repulsed once I took it off around them, and I told him as much, but all he took from that is I don't trust him and think he'd be swayed and not like me anymore. I don't take my prosthetic off around anyone except immediate family and very close friends, as without it my mobility is greatly decreased. I thought since everything else is going so well he'd understand this, but he is upset and angry seeing this as me not trusting him and thinking he'd do something, which is why I don't want to take it off around him. I'm starting to feel some pressure here. I like him a lot and maybe I'm making it into a bigger deal than it has to be. I don't want to upset him and maybe I'm being unfair. Not the asshole, but move on. It sounds as though you're his kind of kink. The kink was my first thought too. I don't think she needs to necessarily end the relationship. Original poster should obviously keep her boundaries, but perhaps that is a thing one could talk about. She could show him she trusts him in some other way. If her not taking off her prosthetic is really a deal breaker for him, then so be it. Anytime you say, I'm uncomfortable with doing X, and someone else says, that's because you don't trust me, now do it anyway, that person is trying to control you. This is not a difference of opinion worth working out. I'm angry because I think you don't trust me. Trust me, damn it. That's no way to get someone to trust you. Anyone who uses guilt trips, you don't trust, love me if you don't, etc., to get you to disregard your boundaries isn't trustworthy. Anyone who knows of your explicitly stated boundaries who continues to push them is not trustworthy. Anyone who disregards your feelings and bodily autonomy, make yourself less mobile and more vulnerable by taking off your leg because I want you to, is not a good person. Anyone who throws a tantrum about not being trusted at the same depth as an immediate family member after dating someone for 5 months is not showing behavior that creates trust. It doesn't matter why original poster's boyfriend is insisting on this, he's 100% in the wrong. I find his behavior concerning, and would encourage original poster to proceed with caution if she wants to stay with this guy. Not the asshole. He needs to respect where you're coming from. His pushiness is sus. Either emotionally immature or he's got a fetish you don't know about yet. My brain went here right away too. He seems a bit obsessed with her taking it off, of being in a position where she's less mobile, able. He's also not respecting her boundaries or feelings. There is also a fetish out there all about folks missing body parts. I believe it is called acrotomophilia or something like that. I might be wrong, but hey, we can Google later. In this situation it also would reduce her mobility, so that raises extra concerns. Not the asshole. I'm going to be honest, my first thought wasn't kink, like a lot of other users. My first thought was that he doesn't want you to be able to easily, quickly escape him if you needed to. Even if it isn't either of those, it's your leg, your decision, not his. And his attitude and insistence just reinforces that you were right not to feel like you're at that level of intimacy with him. Agreed. Not the asshole. I was reminded of this post, messing with mobility is terrifying. I remember that one. Incredibly angry every time I read it. Not the asshole. I really hope he's not pressuring you to satisfy his kink. This not the asshole. Boundaries, people, boundaries. It's okay to not feel comfortable doing something for, with, around someone. You stated your concern, boundaries. And unfortunately he became aggressive about it. I wouldn't stand for that. Have a chat with him. Say, hey, these are my boundaries and respect them or leave. You shouldn't have to feel forced to do anything that reminds you of trauma. I'm so sorry you had to go through that. But not the asshole. Exactly. Doesn't matter whether it's a prosthetic, or a pair of glasses. You only take it off when you feel comfortable and it's nobody else's business when that is. If you give in on this one, what will he start with next? Not the asshole. He's fetishizing you almost certainly. Your comfort is less important than his kinky fulfillment. You see that he is making your comfort less important than his, and by trying to manipulate you into taking your leg off because it threatens his fifis? You don't feel comfortable taking your leg off. End of story and discussion. Does anyone else find this controlling? Exactly. Kink or not, it doesn't really matter why. He's putting his needs and feelings about your leg above yours. Not the asshole. Run. Don't walk to the nearest exit. The guy has some sort of freaky fantasy built up around you and your prosthesis. Suggestions turned into requests will turn into DD mans very soon and may escalate to him actually destroying your prosthesis or hurting you in an attempt to take it from you. This screams red flags all over the place. Get out now. And suggestions turning into requests inside the space of only 5 months. This guy should be respecting your boundaries and comfort zones so much harder. Original poster. Amputee devotee. It's a fetish for some, and seeing the amputation site turns them on much the way boobs or butts would turn on regular folks. It's not a matter of trust. He wants to get his rocks off by looking at the amputation site. Just do what you feel comfortable with. Not the asshole. Completely agree. As an amputee myself, reading this dude is giving off major devotee vibes. Not the asshole. This is a huge red flag. Because he is right. You don't trust him enough yet, and that is okay. But it's not okay with him. Red flag. Trust takes time, and sometimes more time for one person than the other. But instead of accepting that and continuing to build trust in your relationship over time, he has decided to be offended that you cannot trust him on his timeline, and he's trying to make that your problem by guilting and manipulating you. Ironically, in pressuring you to trust him on his timeline rather than listening to and trying to understand your fears, he is proving that he is not trustworthy. Reconsider whether this is the right relationship for you right now. Not the asshole, but you understand he's got some weird amputee kink, right? The only one to make a decision about your prosthetic is you. Or he is uncomfortable her prosthetic. Which TBH I'd break up him for either one. Not the asshole. He has no business telling you how you'll be more comfortable, while forsaking your mobility. Get out of this relationship ASAP. Not the asshole babe, this guy is a chaser. He is with you because he has a fetish for amputees. I would bet $50 if you searched his history, it'd show the truth. I'm sorry. Dump this guy. He isn't respecting your bodily autonomy because he doesn't see you as a person, merely as an avenue to fulfill his fetish. You deserve better. Not the asshole, your boyfriend's insistence that you remove your prosthetic is odd. You repeatedly have explained you prefer to keep it on, once should have been enough. I don't think Op wants to Google what fetish it might be. Not enough information. Has he explained why he's making that request? My assumption is that it's uncomfortable to cuddle, hook up with a hard prosthetic pressing against him, but other people have mentioned amputee fetishes, which would definitely be a red flag. He seems to think it'd be a sign of trust, comfort around him. I'm aware that there is a fetish around people like me, though I've never personally encountered it. I didn't believe he had this fetish, but based on some of the comments I'm worrying. I'm always very careful of it and ensure it's not pressed into him, so it's not about that. He's throwing a couple red flags that I think you should also keep in mind. A good partner respects boundaries, and when you aren't comfortable doing something, they don't push. He's pushing your boundaries and turning it into a trust issue, which has nothing to do with it. It's just a good manipulative way to turn the conversation around so the blame is put on the other person. It may be accidental, but either way it's not a good thing. This was my thinking. I didn't jump to any fetish or malicious intentions. I don't think any of us here can be the judge of that based off a couple paragraphs. Original poster will have to be the one to recognize those signs without more info. But I don't think this is a relationship worth continuing. As you pointed out, he has no respect for original poster. It's about what he wants, and he clearly wants original poster to remove her prosthetic for some reason, not caring that it makes her uncomfortable even after she has explained to him why. I even kinda get it from his side. He may just want to reassure her that he's fine with it off and just wants her to be comfortable with it off around him. But when she tells you that she's not ready, then she is not fucking ready. You go on her time and just leave it. He clearly doesn't care about Op's feelings. Not the asshole. Find someone you're comfortable being around and actually listens to you. Not the asshole. You don't need a reason for your position, though the one you have is a good one. It's concerning that he thinks your decisions about your body have anything to do with him at all. The irony is that by pressuring you to do something you're not comfortable with and complaining that you don't trust him, he's actually giving you reason not to trust him. Not the asshole. Men dating teenagers typically do it because they like a girl that looks up to them and respects them and will go with what they say. You're defying that. He is pushing the boundary to see what he can get away with. This is an early red flag that he doesn't respect your boundaries. It will likely continue and progress. Absolutely. He's got 5 years of adult life experience over her. It's definitely enough to have the upper hand in manipulation and grooming. Not the asshole. He has a fetish, which is fine I suppose, but he's trying to force you to be involved in it against your wishes. That's not fine. If he wants to indulge his fetish, he can find a willing partner. You deserve better than this. Agree with you're not the asshole, but you have nowhere near enough info to conclude that it's a fetish. It's equally as likely from this story to deduce that he's insecure about the relationship and sees this as a sign that she's not as comfortable around him as he would like her to be. Either way, he's an asshole for trying to force the issue. You're not wrong, but most people who give a shit about their partners wouldn't be pushing the issue like this. People as a rule only do that if there's something in it for them. What's in it for him to demand such a thing from her, if he doesn't have an amputee fetish? I'll grant you that it's an assumption on my part, but I really don't think I'm too far from the mark. Just to point out, if it were him seeing it as a sign that she's not comfortable enough around him rather than fetish, then that's not even necessarily a selfless intent. He could be wanting to know that she is comfortable in the relationship for his own ends of feeling secure in the relationship. Wanting to ensure that someone is fully committed and willing to let you see them vulnerable is potentially a way of confirming that you are in a position to be able to manipulate and control them. As I said, he's an asshole for forcing the issue, and in no way am I attempting to portray his actions as well-intended. Not the asshole. You told him you were not comfortable with that yet, and his response is to get angry. Refusing to make your mobility limited to satisfy him is not unreasonable. He's actually being unreasonable after you told him no. Why is he so hung up on this? Not the asshole. His reaction to your discomfort is reason enough not to trust him. He's going to pout because he hasn't earned your comfort. How TF does that even work? He sounds like a real gem. S.